There's a well-conditioned not to touch works of art, and for good reason. But in these situations, touching is generally rewarded with the discovery of a new thing, like opening a door leads into another chamber, and so on. So that trying to reverse some of that conditioning of exploring. For myself, I think a lot of what you find interesting as an adult comes out of childhood experiences, and it's a very evocative environment, using atmospheric lighting. The idea of mystery and discovery is very important to me. It's something I still like. Kids have that all the time, and adults tend to forget the magic of the surprise. I was a bit intimidated by the size of this gallery. It's a huge gallery, and plus it's got lots of natural light, as you can see. So the problem, most of my environments I designed for very controlled lighting situations. Usually they're fairly dark, and they have ways the light works to lead the viewer through the pieces. So the problem here was solved by creating a false ceiling over the piece using black plastic to block out the light. A lot of this installation was serendipitous discovery of objects on or around the campus that suggested works in themselves. So a number of the things that were done here were built totally from objects found here on the campus, in the storerooms, in the basements, in the warehouse. I like the idea of making works that are specifically related to a site. And what's nice is that after the show, the material gets returned to its repository, so I don't have to worry about it, and the college still has the material, and everybody has had an experience with it. Not really. You think I would, but I don't. A lot of stuff I find in alleys. Parts and things, and but then a lot of it I make it myself out of objects. Like things like this apparatus here was some leftover stuff from a film called Brainstorm, and they used it for similar things like this for a fantastic machine that can videotape mental pictures. And so after the show, they were getting rid of a lot of this stuff. So I said, hey, that was pretty good. So I dragged it along and ended up using it here in that bivouac tableau. So you never know what you're going to use when. So that's Luigi. Go Luigi here. Actually, this was part of the Mystery Museum that was at the Art Institute 10 years ago. This was the head of a mummy that I built. The mummy looked like it was someone wearing Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt laying in a chaise lounge in the middle of the desert. And this was the head, which I built out of fiberglass and paper mache. So that's Luigi. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him when he was an undergraduate student. And look at him now. And this is my pet turtle, Horatio, who I lost years ago and found recently when I built my studio. This is the one that they're referring to. It's a little sort of a boys' school fantasy item. It has little doors which open and close. And what it was it started out life as a paint thinner can, which I then cut up and then proceeded to solder together to make a little tank. I don't remember what the motivation was, but here it is, and it sits on a shelf now in an art show. I like to look at things. Okay, I love detail. Not for its own sake, just because it's kind of it's fascinating on a number of levels. And I think it's also needed to draw the viewer into the piece. It helps break down that barrier between the art object and the viewer. If there are familiar objects that people can relate to, I think they feel more comfortable with the work. They can look at it. So a lot of my work is it appears to be very figurative. It's not highly abstract work. And a lot of the work also relates to architecture, which is very familiar to all of us. But beyond the detail, there are more metaphorical uses of it. It becomes symbols of other items. There's an intentional element of humor in the work, although there's also a darker, more somber side, too. I think the two are not exclusive components. It's really not of life, and so I try to mix them into my work also, so it's intentional. There's irony there, and there's irony everywhere. It's a matter of noticing it. A lot of objects I've used, like the desert scene, if you look at them very closely, they aren't what they appear to be. So the mind of the viewer then fills in lots of the interstices. And I think that's part of the magic of art, is that it's like a magic. The viewer's mind takes over, and the viewer sees what they want to see. of small-scale objects before I got into the film work. Actually, the sculpture led into work in the film industry. And I've been doing model work there for a number of years now. And I do it periodically to support my own work. Yeah, I worked in Close Encounters, Blade Runner, Star Trek, Raise the Titanic, 1941. Blade Runner, there's a large dirigible-like form which flies around the city, advertising the virtues of leaving the planet, going to this other planet they're trying to colonize. And the blimp itself was originally built by a model maker named Billy George, who now works up here for Lucasfilms. But Ridley Scott wanted the blimp to seem even larger than it was originally, so he had me rebuild it and to increase its scale. So that was one object that I worked a lot on myself. But usually in these film projects, it's a collaborative effort, and everybody has a hand in it. So it's rare that you get to do something all yourself. Usually it's a team effort, and I like that aspect of film work. It's a nice balance to the solitary work in my own studio. The attempt of that piece was called Inner City, and one of my attempts was to change the scale of the viewer, if that makes sense. I wanted to make a person feel like they were like 6 inches tall. That's why the thing was elevated to that height, so you could walk down the street and imagine that you were walking down this street by yourself at night. And all those incumbent things that you experience then, that kind of feeling of being vulnerable, isolated, kind of the mystery of a city without people. There are lights on inside, but you can never see who's in there. You always have to imagine. You fill in the population yourself, based on the sounds and the lighting and qualities like that.
Why did you choose the inscription on the front of the Mills College Gallery to use as the title of your show?
I chose it for a couple of reasons. The irony that it was already there, and it was made the exhibit especially specific to Mills, and the sentiment is something I kind of believe in. Life is short, and hopefully the art is a gesture to the future. That speaks across time, and way after the artist is gone. I guess a romantic, poetic kind of ring to that appeals to me.
How about your own work, an installation like this, though, being
temporary, or depending on other people to use other forms of art in order to capture it?
Well, it's something I had to resign myself to a long time ago when I started making environments, was the fact that these things are very temporal in nature, and they do go away. And I accept that. I assume that they live on in people's minds. Plus, I take a lot of pictures. Generally, I have to be philosophical and accept the fact that, in this case, it's ars brevis. The art is short, along with the life. So it doesn't bother me anymore. I accept it. Right now it looks like a big sort of a swap meet or a junk store, depending upon your point of view. I suppose it is, but once it's all brought together in a special way, it becomes something else.